podcast. Hey everybody, I'm Ken Newhouse, and welcome to the world's biggest client acquisition show, the Get Clients Now podcast, where I interview the world's leading experts and extract from them the strategies, systems, tools, and tactics that are delivering real-world results for small business owners and entrepreneurs around the globe.
This is Ken Newhouse, and I want to welcome you to this episode of the Get Clients Now podcast. On this episode, I'm going to show you how to eliminate sales objections and erase price resistance by building a solid sales presentation and close. Our special guest today is going to be Ryan Hunt from Cornerstone Solutions. Cornerstone Solutions provides sales training and tools for small business owners and entrepreneurs. Now, before I bring Ryan in on the training, I actually want to share a process that I created with you that's going to give you greater clarity and greater levels of confidence, as well as increase your capabilities when it comes to selling more of your stuff. This deals directly with your sales presentation and the closing process. The process that I'll be sharing with you today is called the Ultimate Presentation Formula, and I know some of you are quite familiar with that, your clients. Many others of you have actually read my most recent book, which is How to Make Your Business Profitable Again, Ultimate Strategies for Getting Even Better Results from Your Marketing and Advertising. And in chapter 4 of that book, I go into great detail on the Ultimate Presentation Formula. At the end of the show today, I'm actually going to show you how to get a free copy, 100% free, of the entire Ultimate Presentation Formula. Obviously, due to time constraints, I don't have nearly enough time to go through the entire training with you, so I'm just going to go through the shell or an outline of the presentation of the framework. And then at the end of the training, like I said, you'll be able to download a full version of that. So by implementing and utilizing the Ultimate Presentation Formula, you're going to be able to immediately improve your meetings and sales presentations so you can convert more prospects into paying customers. You'll be able to attract more leads and generate more sales with your internet marketing efforts. I don't know if you do anything on Facebook. If you're not doing anything on Facebook, you should, but certainly your Facebook marketing will be more successful. Your landing pages and sales videos are going to generate more sales as well. You'll be able to use webinars, whether they're live or recorded, to generate more sales. If you're not using webinars, that's certainly a strong consideration. I think you should be. The copy in your sales letters and your ads. You're going to actually be able to improve that so that you'll be able to easily convert your prospects into paying customers, and you'll be able to do it in a way that actually makes them happy. They're going to be totally at ease with. They're actually going to enjoy the process. You'll also be able to instantly overcome the feeling of nervousness or that tendency to freeze up. You know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes time to ask for the sale, right? So whether you're selling face-to-face, on the phone, or doing a live webinar presentation, which means you're going to be able to sell your stuff effortlessly, right? By using the Ultimate Presentation Formula, it's a very powerful framework. You'll be able to quickly and completely revolutionize your confidence, your capabilities, so you can sell more effectively, and you'll be able to do that effortlessly, right? So what's the biggest benefit you're going to gain from learning or implementing the Ultimate Presentation Formula? Chances are you'll probably become a master of selling your stuff, right? Your conversion ratio is probably going to skyrocket. The process of selling really is going to become more enjoyable for you, and I know that's a big concern for a lot of business owners. They hate selling, and the reason most of you hate selling is because you don't know how to sell, right? I'm not being critical. I'm being factually true. For a long time, I didn't know how to sell, but when you learn how to sell and you learn how to use this framework that I'm going to give you in the Ultimate Presentation Formula, selling becomes effortless. It's certainly very low key. There is no high pressure. There's no manipulation of your prospects. There's no trickery or chicanery or shenanigans whatsoever. Doesn't exhibit your prospects. There's no trickery or chicanery or shenanigans whatsoever. Doesn't exist. And so this is a process whereby you're going to be totally relaxed. You're going to enjoy it. That is when you're selling. Your prospects are going to enjoy it because, guys, think about it. Most people, in fact, that includes myself and you guys as well, we hate to be sold, right? People love to buy, but they hate to be sold. So ultimately, the Ultimate Presentation Formula is going to help you make more money. And if you remember, always remember this, guys. You're in business, I'm in business to make a profit on purpose, right? Okay, before I begin going over the framework of the Ultimate Presentation Formula, I just want to reiterate to you guys that people love to buy, right? And that loving to buy stuff, that urge that really people have where they really enjoy buying stuff, that stuff that they want, right? That's ingrained into our DNA. That's known as a response mechanism, and it's literally ingrained into the DNA of humans, right? And today, at least in Western society, people literally celebrate when they buy stuff. So if you think buy a new home or a new car, I know when I got my Audi, I was totally stoked, right? For most people in America now, making a purchase really is now seen as somewhat of an accomplishment. That's actually how many people in society view and measure the success or the, I don't want to say success, they view the worth, which is pretty lame, but they view the worth of a person by how much stuff they have. It's pretty shallow, but guess what? You're going to use that behavior that's ingrained in all of us, right, to your advantage to sell more stuff. Now, I also want to qualify when I say sell more stuff. I am assuming that you are delivering and selling immensely valuable services or products in your marketplace. And if you're not, meaning if you're being dishonest, if you're being manipulative, if you are being overbearing or rude to your prospects, you're lame, you need to stop. Right? In fact, if you're dishonest, you should probably go to jail. Nobody likes to be lied to or manipulated, and I strongly want to condemn it. So everything I say, I want you to filter it through the idea that I'm assuming that you're an honest person, right? I don't want to help anybody sell anything that's related to pornography or, taking advantage of children or lying or cheating or anything else like that. So, and if you're doing stuff that's valuable and good, I wish you the best success. And that's why I'm going to share with you the ultimate presentation formula and allow you to copy it later on and give you a download of it, right? On a personal note, I don't participate in the, you got to have more stuff to feel good about yourself. My view of myself and how I measure myself and how I measure my success has very little to do with how much stuff I have or how much money I make. Now, certainly, I'm in business to make a profit on purpose, right? I'm unbelievably blessed, right? I'm very thankful for the things that I have, but nevertheless, my success, at least as far as how I measure my success, has a little bit to do with how well I do and how, more specifically, how well I'm able to help my clients. That's one of my great measuring sticks, the success that my clients have. But I really don't want to like the fact that most people actually believe that the more stuff you have makes you a more successful person, makes you the winner of the game, so to speak. That's at least the perception in our society, right? But in order for you and I to generate greater levels of success, certainly when it comes to selling our stuff, we want to actually utilize that psychologically driven response mechanism that's ingrained in all of us so we can get more of our stuff sold. We want to take advantage of that. And when I say take advantage, again, it's not to manipulate people. It's not to take advantage of them. It's to help you sell more of your valuable stuff, services and products to your marketplace, right? Now comes the bad news. And yes, there is bad news that I must counterbalance this with. And that's that most of us have been brainwashed since youth that selling is actually bad, right? It's not an uncommon thing for me from time to time if I have a client. Well, certainly in the past when I've had clients, I don't take a lot of new clients now, but certainly taking a client that I may outline for them the greatest blueprint clients, I don't take a lot of new clients now, but certainly taking a client that I may outline for them the greatest blueprint for improving their business and selling a lot more of their stuff. And I see some reservation. They would kind of get hung up on the fact of implementing some of this stuff. And here's why, because they would believe falsely that their customers, their clients, maybe their patients will somehow become angry with them, become mad at them for asking for a sale. How crazy is that? You're worried that your customers, your prospects, patients, clients, whatever it is, they're going to get mad at you because you're trying to sell them something. Listen, you're in business. Business doesn't occur without a sale. So think about that, right? Now, I understand that we're all operating from that mindset that, society loves to buy, but, they hate to be sold. Actually, that's a lot true. People hate to be sold. Being sold means you're being manipulated, right? Having someone assist you by selling is a very virtuous thing, right? If somebody has a solution that would really, really help you, wouldn't you want them to make every effort to help get it into your hands so that you could start to utilize it? Good thing. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to be able to cover the full version, and I think I've already mentioned this, the full version of the ultimate presentation formula. I just don't have the time. But remember, stick around to the end, and I'm going to actually give you the entire system 100%. I'll give you a link to download it at the end of the presentation today, at the end of the show. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. Now, I want to actually address one of the bigger hangups that people have that prevent them from selling. When I say people have, I'm talking about if you're a business owner, if you're a professional services provider, an entrepreneur. What I'm about to cover with you is one of the biggest hangups that people have when it comes to selling their stuff, right? This includes your employees, right? So this is information you want to give them to equip them to be able to sell your stuff as well. You must be able to dominate your thoughts and emotions. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the number one reason the majority of folks don't sell more stuff, it's because they're afraid that they're going to upset their prospects and clients, right? They'll actually worry about things like, what if my client gets mad at me for trying to actually, right? They'll actually worry about things like, what if my client gets mad at me for trying to actually ask for the purchase? They're going to worry about, what if they say something bad about me on Facebook? People worry about, what if my client says no to me, right? And so unbelievably, a lot of you guys will actually go through the sales presentation and you'll never ask your prospect to make the purchase, right? That's pretty lame. And so I want to give you a framework so that you're not going to be afraid to do that, right? In fact, pulling your punches because you're afraid that your prospects are going to get mad at you when you're actually just trying to make a living is like, literally, it's like convincing them that they need what you're selling, but then you somehow tell them to go get it from your competitors. When you don't ask for the sale, you get them all kind of hot and lathered up, right? They get very, very keenly focused on what it is that you're selling, but by not asking for the sale, you're literally doing the promotion and marketing for your competitors because they will ask for the sale, right? If you're selling something valuable, guys, think about this. You owe it to your prospects to get it into their hands. Reason to fear trying to get value to your prospects. In fact, that's why you're in business, to help serve other people, is it not? Think about that. In my estimation, you owe it to your prospects. You owe it to your clients. You owe it to your family. You owe it to yourself to make the sale. Period. End of story. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the formula that's going to help you engineer a much more successful sales presentation and closing process. I actually learned the basic framework of this from my friend John Carlton, and actually I learned this back, I think it was 2004, might have been 2005. I learned this at John's copywriting seminar. It was the License to Steal. It was a $15,000 seminar, best money I've ever invested in my copywriting career. It was a fabulous 4-day event, just absolutely fabulous. This was a seminar that was held in Reno. And so prior to actually getting to the event, John sent out an email to all of us and told us if we have any copy that we're having challenges with, bring it to the event and we would actually do like a live walkthrough of it. And so we could all participate, we could watch and see, we'd actually do like a live walkthrough of it. And so we could all participate, we could watch and see how we would actually fix the copy, right? And so I actually brought a sales letter that I was having a really hard time integrating the presentation, the close, and the call to action, right? This was going to sell a very, very expensive boot camp that I wanted to put on, but I didn't feel good about how I had laid it out. So I wanted John to help me. Well, within 5 minutes, he looked at it. He said, man, I've got the greatest framework for you to use. It's an awesome formula. And then he told me what it was. Now, here's what John told me, and I'm going to give it to you like a little synopsis, a few bullet points of how to fix my sales letter, right? This actually, what I'm about to give you, became the foundation for the ultimate presentation formula. So here's what he said to do. First thing I want to do is you want to tell your prospects, whether it's in your copy or whether it's in a face-to-face sales presentation, hey, here's what I've got. Bullet point number 1 is, hey, here's what I've got. Bullet number 2, here's what it's going to do for you, right? Bullet point 3, here's what I want you to do next. You have to, just in boiling it down and making this kind of quick and easy for you, those are the 3 points that I came up with. Now, since that time, I transformed that into the ultimate presentation formula to get even better results, right? This is really an awesome presentation formula. It's a framework for building an awesome presentation and close. But before I go over it with you, I want to give not full credit. I want to give a lot of credit to John, because without John, I probably wouldn't have come up with this on my own. Yeah, I'm just not that smart. So here are the bullet points in the ultimate presentation formula. Here's what I've got. Here's what's going to do for you. Here's how it works. Here's what I want you to do next, right? Very important. Now, here's where it starts to separate a little bit. Here's why it's safe and smart, right? And this is where you would actually use like a guarantee or an anti-guarantee. Now, the next few steps that I added to the framework are optional. I highly recommend that you use them. Not in every instance, but there are a lot of instances where you're going to want to use this. Option number 1, you want to add a bonus or a booster. Those are 2 entirely different things, okay? I go into add a bonus or a booster. Those are 2 entirely different things, okay? I go into all of these bullet points in great depth and I give you examples, like actual sales examples in the framework, in the ultimate presentation formula that I'm going to give you at the end of the show today. So right now I'm just covering the bullet points, like I said, but not only will I give you the bullet points, I'm actually going to walk you through, literally like hold you by the hand, walk you through, give you all this at the end of the show, right? The next option, the next one that is optional as well, which is to add scarcity, right? I don't mean fake scarcity, but if you limit a certain number of available, whatever it is that you're selling, I'll give you an example. Let's say that I'm going to do a seminar, a boot camp. I've got 40, 50 people there, each paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 to attend, right? And at the end of the boot camp, I offer additional training with me. Now, I don't have much room to accept new clients, but if I were going to accept new clients, let's say that I would take 5, The fact that there are 40 people in the room and there are 5 openings available, that's legitimate version of problem whatsoever. In fact, I'm going to fill them up within the first 5 minutes. When you do this right, you'll have people fighting for those available spots. The final step really is to simply recap everything we've said, right? Now, one last thing. Remember, at the end of the show today, I'm going to give you a link where you can download the full version of the Ultimate Presentation Formula absolutely free. So be sure to stick around with that. Okay, having said that, let's go ahead and take a short break so I can grab a bottle of water. And then we'll be bringing our guest on for today's show. That's Ryan Hunt from Cornerstone Solutions. And I think you guys are really, really going to like this. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ryan, how you doing today? It's great to have you on the show.
Doing great. Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I certainly appreciate you taking the time to be on the call with us. I know you've got an insanely busy schedule like myself, but definitely understand that, it's hard to carve time out, but I do appreciate it. And so I just want our listeners to know, and I've already kind of briefed Ryan on this, I'm definitely under the weather today is a mild way to put it. And so I apologize if after this show is over, we don't get all of the throat clears or the sneezes or whatever else may come through, if we don't get all that edited out. So at any rate, I want to start this call off with, and just a few quick definitions I want to throw out there for the listeners. A lot of business owners, and Ryan, I'm sure you're going to be able to comment on this in even more detail than I can, but in my estimation and my experience, most business owners kind of persuade someone of your position. And when we're talking about business, obviously, it's to persuade them to the extent that they're going to give you money. But if we really look at life in general, everything we do relies on selling. And so I know you have small children. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you got a couple little kids. And the neat thing about kids is that they're not the best salespeople, but they are persistent. So that makes them really good salespeople. But, in order for anything to happen, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's a student who's in school, could be high school, university, middle school, whatever it is, selling, the act of persuading someone has to take place. And as I state on every show, I'm going to assume that anyone that I work with and everyone that listens, well, not everyone, I would hope that everyone that listens to the show is really selling something that is really of great value to their marketplace. And so I don't ever condone the use of selling strategies to take advantage of people or to manipulate people or anything else, because some of the strategies that we're going to cover are actually very, very powerful, and they could be used for bad purposes. And so, hopefully you won't do that. And if you do that, I hope it comes back on you multitudes of times over. So direct response copy. This is the last point I want to make. I'm a direct response and internet marketing copywriter and consultant. And for me, selling is critically important because what I do is salesmanship and print. And so for me to help clients, I have to be able to literally create compelling sales messages, and not only the ad copy that I write, but also any marketing collateral that is created to support that. So with respect to selling really is at the core of every successful business, whether you're comfortable with that or not. And so, Ryan, I want to start the first question off, and actually I changed the order of the questions, if you will. I switched 1 and 2 around, but the word professional in the dictionary has a meaning, and And so if we look at examples of other professionals, we'll look at athletes as an example. We can clearly see that the most effective, the highest paid individuals and organizations train on a regular basis. They have systems in place. And so my question to you is, what are your thoughts on sales training? And if you could, I'll break the question down for you. I'll just do the first couple now. But what are 4 or 5 primary benefits that that companies can expect by implementing a sales training program?
Yeah, Ken, that's a great question. The definition in the dictionary of a professional is a person engaged or qualified in a profession. Engaged is the key word here. A mentor of mine has always said that even Tiger Woods and Albert Pujols, both sports professionals, highly paid individuals, both have coaches, most likely plural. In the world of business, you look at people like Mark Zuckerberg. Watch some some of his videos of old interviews when Facebook started having a large public presence. He was sweating. He was uncomfortable. He was very unorganized in his thoughts. He was very unorganized in his thoughts. And following the hiring of his number 2 in command, Sheryl Sandberg, she is well known for advising him to use coaches, one of them being for public speaking. And now that you see him, he's very polished, very confident in his public engagements and interviews. It's really about refining your skill set. You can teach an old dog new tricks, contrary to what has been taught in the past. We offer the same things in professional sales training. We teach the best practices of the sales cycle in a very hands-on way, which allows trainees to personalize their role within the sales cycle versus the typical sink or swim sales training model. The 4 benefits that you mentioned before in implementing a sales training program is, number 1, it's a mastery of skills versus just natural talent. Most naturally, all on their own. You see this when organizations have significant differences in the variations in their people. Sales rep number 1 has twice the sales and new accounts of the other reps. Sales rep number 1's numbers are increasing while others are decreasing. These all show up in the data metrics. Number 2, it provides continuity. The sales cycle is learned and identified company-wide. When this is implemented company-wide, it unifies the sales team. A unified vision is a very strong vision. Look, without it, organizations can go stale if they're not learning. What worked yesterday doesn't always work today or tomorrow. And seasoned reps can get complacent or go through sales slumps.
Right. So just to interject, I want to interject a quote. I have a book of quotes. Anytime I hear something that I think is profound that can be beneficial, not only for myself, but for whether it's my clients, friends of mine, or just in this case, listeners of the show. But my friend Grant Cardone on a call was just not too long ago actually was talking to me about a sales training presentation that he had done. And I guess he had over 100 CEOs in the room. But here was his quote to them. And I'm going to actually read it. It says, "People have to depend on you. Your values go up and down every day. Like the stock market, you've got to show up every day. Are you a stock? Do you have value in the marketplace? Are you showing up every day? What you did yesterday, last week, last month does not matter today. The only thing that matters is right here and right now." And so when you talked about just a few seconds ago that, what you've accomplished yesterday really doesn't matter for today, there's a lot of truth to that. And so my next question, if we could segue right into that, the data is absolutely crystal clear on this. I find that very, very few people have even ever heard of this topic, but the power of negative preparation. And what that is, very simply, is companies who invest the time to understand what their prospects' primary objections are that would prohibit them or keep them from purchasing from the business owner. And so knowing what those things are, the data is crystal clear. If you know what those common objections are, reasons why people wouldn't buy per se, you can actually create a sales program that actually deals with that. And so from your experience and working with just a variety of companies, what have you found to be the most, I would say, the best, most effective method for maybe obtaining and then using the information in order to prepare, like negatively prepare? It's kind of a misnomer in the way it's described, but in order to create to prepare yourself to be able to have a powerful and effective sales presentation.
Absolutely. Negative preparation is key to engaging the customer. In most sales situations that we are put in, the customer is trying to turn you away. If you can overcome objections, you begin the first step of creating rapport and gaining trust from your prospective client. If they have no reason to say no, they won't say no. And no, they won't say no. In past companies I've worked with or worked at, we spend a great deal of time preparing for the no. Another way of preparing for this is knowing your product. As I stated before, most will seek a way that your product wouldn't be a fit for them. And if you know your product well enough, you can overcome any objection. Look, what you said at the very beginning of this conversation, if it's still not a fit at this point after you've overcome objections, walk away. You never want to sell someone something they don't need. That will lead to massive churn within your organization and upset referral sources. At the end of the day, we are creating referral sources.
That's a great answer. But one of the things, and actually, you just said something that triggered this thought, and it was during a coaching call with Strategic Coach, and that you have to have a seven-figure business or higher to be actually in Strategic Coach. It's with Dan Sullivan. He talked about Dan Sullivan talked about why it's such a bad idea for companies to hire or use people who will use unscrupulous sales tactics. And here's basically what he said. You might get more sales in the beginning, and this goes to your point of selling something that they actually don't need just so that you can actually get a sale. But he said that if you have people in your employment or your company uses tactics like that, number one, you're going to lose good people who won't participate in that kind of activity. So you may have salespeople who are very honorable and just say, hey, listen, I'm not going to do that. What you end up with over time is you really only retain the people who are really unscrupulous salespeople. And at some point down the road, your company is going to suffer because they're going to start taking advantage of you. And so the fact that you just said that I thought was kind of interesting. We know that companies that use well thought out, laser focused sales scripts, they're going to deliver the most consistent results, certainly results that can be accurately measured and improved upon. And I'm a big proponent of actually, I'm amazed at how many times when I ask for stats from a company, from the business owner or manager, I get, I think so's, or I'm pretty sure they don't have hard data. But when it comes to using sales scripts, if everybody, you talked about earlier, just a few minutes ago, about continuity within the program. And so scripting allows continuity. And certainly I'm a huge advocate of that. And based on that, do you have any input, or what are some of the benefits that companies, well, first of all, are you for using scripts? And second of all, I hope you are. What are some of the benefits that companies, other than what I've already mentioned, what can they experience by using scripts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think scripts are very important. We actually teach that in Best Practice Bootcamp, which is one of our core courses. They're great for developing new hires, as well as if your company changes or adds new product lines. Companies are always growing, moving, adapting, changing, and it's important that the new people adapt, as well as your new people or your existing seasoned staff. They need to be able to adapt quickly as well. Even the seasoned reps need selling points with changes to their daily routine. We're a routine people, and when you change a product or add a new line, this changes that routine, and they need to be able to adapt quickly. Sales scripts allow a conversational routine to be developed. Repetition creates memory and learning. Once a sales script becomes second nature, people can sound more relaxed in their sales presentations, thus sounding more confident. That's what we all strive for in sales, is to be confident and comfortable in what we do.
That just triggers another memory of mine, but when I went into practice, I practiced chiropractic for almost 17 years, but I actually, one of the first practice management companies that I worked with, they actually gave me scripts. And I thought, okay, well, this will at least give me some continuity with my new patients. And so for me, how I actually did it in the beginning is I actually printed out my script and I placed it on the clipboard with all of the other patient history forms and exam forms that I would fill out. But I would just simply keep lifting up the patient forms during the patient interview. I would lift up their documents like I was checking for other information, and I would literally look at the script and then I would just regurgitate it back in my own words. And over time, I got to the point of not having to use that. But I have to tell you that using scripts and actually, using a cheat sheet, which I guess if you're doing phone sales, even if you're face to face, there are ways to use scripts that are really, really, really powerful. And for me, I know it helped me dramatically. I also know that by using scripts, it's much, much easier to make tweaks and improvements to the sales script in and of itself. That leads me into the next question, so to speak, that I want to ask you. And that is, one of the things that I recommend to my clients in order to I guess, quote unquote, test their people to make sure they're using their scripts is to actually have like somebody mystery shop them, call and then record the call. But are there any other strategies that you guys use or recommend or know of as far as how to maybe like testing, or what would you recommend as far as to make sure that the employees are actually using the scripts in the way they're supposed to be used? And is there any kind of training, rehearsal, role playing back and forth? What do you guys recommend as far as that?
Boy, as managers, we walk a tightrope with that question. Managers should be sitting with their people while on phone calls or joining them on face-to-face sales calls. It is very uncomfortable while that's happening, but it really pushes your rep or your salesperson to think and to grow. If your manager manages you or your salesperson to think and to grow, if your manager manages you properly with constructive feedback, a manager can spot out the things you personally are not identifying, such as if your manager manages you properly with constructive spot out things you personally are not identifying, such as the case of the ums. We all unknowingly battle this one as salespeople, as managers, as public speakers.
Yeah, I'm sure I say now and again, but yeah, certainly the less often you can say the more professional and more polished and more certain. Certainty is really important. I think that's one of the big benefits of using scripts is, in fact, perception in selling, and as anything in life, perception in the eyes of your prospects and your clients, what they perceive to be true, whether it's true or not, actually is true, and they're going to respond accordingly. So if they perceive that you're really sharp, that you're really on your game, that you're very confident, obviously that you have integrity and so on and so forth, and knowing your scripts and being well scripted and well rehearsed and polished, and then interjecting your personality in that, I think actually is a driver for certainty in the minds of your prospects. It just gives them a lot more confidence in what you're trying to sell them. So here's a question. I don't know if I this up or not, but risk reversal. I am an advocate for risk reversal. And I don't know how many companies you deal with that sell primarily online, but in 2017, we are faced with challenges often of people simply just not believing things. And so in order to help our clients, one of the things that I am an advocate of is a thing called risk reversal. And that is very simply when you're making a sales transaction, you put all of the risk on you in the form of a guarantee. And so I don't know, with respect to your training, as far as, is this something that you encourage your clients to use, or what's your position on risk reversal, like guarantees?
I think, you can't deal in absolutes. If you're dealing with a tangible product, a consumer-based good, warranties are easy. When you eliminate the risk, like a lot of the as seen on TV, lifetime warranty creates a lot of the risk that a consumer views anything that is not readily accessible, like on a Walmart floor. It allows that level of comfort to, essentially test that product out. And you know what? If that product works out, a happy customer in the digital world that we live in is going to announce that to the world via Facebook or Twitter or whatnot to their group of friends. Pinterest is a great example of people becoming happy with the product.
Right.
When we deal in the world of service, it's very difficult to put those guarantees on there because it's a very gray area. When you're dealing in sales training, customer service, cleaning something, that is in the eye of the beholder, the eye of the beholder, or their perception of what is happening. So it is incumbent upon a service-based industry to go above and beyond, work and strive to work in excellence.
Well, one of the things
and that
go ahead.
That is what we teach, in our courses, is that anything that you do is to be done in excellence because eyes are watching you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we all know what happens to the negative Nancy. They tend to tell, 5 times the amount of people
absolutely,
that the product didn't work.
Absolutely, they go the other way. So one of the things as far as service businesses, let me give an example of some of the things that I've done and it works really, really well. As an example, I actually talked to you about a high-level mastermind group the last time we met, but I've been also, for many years, I was the promoter of big events, 2 to 3 day events, where people would come and they would learn how to get clients, things like that, marketing, sales training. And I would have other people speak with us. But one of the ways that I actually employed risk reversal, actually, there are many ways I employed in a service-based business. Here's an example for use in a seminar. I would tell people, listen, come to the seminar, and if by noon on the first day of the event, and if it's a one-day event, obviously you could alter it as well, and if by noon on the first day of the event, now we're talking about a $5,000 to $10,000 event, If by noon on the first day you are not absolutely over the top, 100% convinced that this has been one of the best investments for you to attend the event, not only will I refund your seminar fee, but I will give you up to $500 worth of documented travel expenses. So if they flew on an airplane, and to date, I've never had anybody take me up on that. When I was in practice, I would guarantee, which is a service, I would guarantee wait time. So you can be very creative in the way that you offer guarantees. I would guarantee wait time. So if they had to wait, I was seeing, 100 to 120 people a day, Monday through Thursday. And so if anybody had to wait for any length of time over what the prescribed guarantee was, I would give them that visit free. I could never guarantee a cure. I was able to guarantee literal results. So as an example, we would shoot films, radiographs, x-rays on patients. And I would say, listen, if I accepted them as a patient, listen, obviously my job is to correct this. So I want to be treating you long after the fact that you're feeling well. The goal for me, the objective to know that I fixed you, is to be able to show you post x-rays where we can demonstrate radiographically, we can see the changes. And if you do your exercises, and they have to fill a little sheet out every week, so they would be involved as well. And I do my thing, and if we don't fix this, I'll give your money back. And actually, in all the years of practicing, I had one person that I didn't fulfill that on, and they didn't ask for their money back. I gave them their money back, which was about $7,800. But the cool thing about that was, within a month's time, they had referred me a family of 5, and so they had referred me a 5 that prepaid for chiropractic care, and I think 3 other patients, which in turn yielded over $21,000. My practice was cash-based, and so it worked out. And so it is, on one hand, very difficult to guarantee a service because you're kind of relying on, anytime you put your success in someone else's hands, it can be scary, and it's something you got to tread lightly with. But there are really, I think, a lot of creative ways you can guarantee services that really don't put you on the hook. And in some cases, you kind of can be on the hook, like guaranteeing this, the seminar. Or as an example, selling products. I sell a lot of information products. I've had literally, and it hasn't happened for a while because I changed the format, I had people literally, I got a box back when I used to ship stuff. I got a box back, and in the box, when we opened it up, we just issued the refund without even opening the box. Inside the box was a photocopy of a handwritten legal pad where someone had said, okay, copy this, make copies of the DVDs, make copies of, make photocopies of these two, all of my stuff. After I've sent it back, so he ripped me off. Having said that, by offering the guarantee, I have 2 guarantees, try it for 30 days, and for any reason or no reason at all, or 60 days, whatever it is, depending, return it. I'll give your money back, no questions asked. If you use this and you can document and show, that's the second guarantee, that you've used at least 2 or 3 of the strategies, depending on the system, and you haven't multiplied your investment by a factor of 10 as a minimum, I'll give your money back after that as well. And that really radically increases my sales by doing that. So I think, in my estimation, there's a lot of creative ways I think any business could guarantee a service without putting themselves on the hook, because, I started this conversation off with, we live in a society today where people will take advantage of you, and it doesn't take that many for you to be, end up with a bad taste in your mouth. But I know you guys are doing some really super sweet stuff over at Cornerstone, and I've got a couple more questions. Okay, so I know this. A lot of companies, I actually used to work exclusively when I would deal with a client who, say, had lots of employees. I don't work with corporations per se, but I've worked with some privately owned companies that have, hundreds of employees. I used to send all my people to Sandler exclusively, but just in looking at what you guys are doing with, at Cornerstone and the results you're getting for your clients, I immediately made the switch. For me, it was a no-brainer. So, a lot of companies offer sales training, Sandler being one of them, but what's really different about what you guys are doing at Cornerstone Solutions?
While there are many great sales training organizations out there, many of them tend to focus on one piece of the sales cycle, whether that be negotiating, asking questions, or the hard close, which we don't like. Best Practice Bootcamp focuses on the entire sales cycle, beginning with developing a strategic plan all the way through leveraging your relationships to grow your sales. You cannot negotiate, ask questions, or close a sale if you have no plan or cannot find any customers. And it's sale if you have no plan or cannot find any customers. In addition, we're a people organization and believe people create impact on sales. There are many modes to create pathways from the company to the consumer. our programs fortify the relationship used to generate new business.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on people who say, I'd rather do the in-house training myself versus having a, professional company like Cornerstone Solutions come in and help us with that? What are the pros and cons to that?
Those are actually great companies to work with. We're a great partner for that type of company seeking to do all of their own in-house training. We tell our clients our goal is to train ourselves out of a job. Cornerstone is actually currently developing several co-branded best practice boot camps that will focus on more or less a one-size-fits-one message and sales script. How do you sell your product at your company? Bringing Cornerstone into the mix allows for new ideas that we've proven in many industries and many marketplaces. This goes back to the original question. We were talking about getting stale. We come in and we work with those trainers to refresh their ideas and their brand and the way of doing things. And so I think those types of customers are actually very great for us.
Okay. You guys have anything new at Cornerstone that's coming up this year, or any type of new services? I know you have the Best Practices Boot Camp, which I think our listeners are going to want some information on here in just a bit on how to find out more about that. But what's up on your calendar for what's new?
Yeah, 2017 and beyond for us is going to be very exciting. We are actually expanding Best Practice Boot Camp nationally. We'll be releasing training dates shortly in the fall for Dallas, Denver, and Chicago. And with the surge of rapid growth startups and company expansions, we're also putting a plan together to include San Francisco and Houston, Texas, to the schedule as well.
I've actually done seminars in every one of those cities, and the one I like the least, just because of logistics and traffic, is Chicago, the one that was probably my favorite. I love Denver and I love Dallas. I just don't like Dallas in the middle of summer. It's just kind of hot, but Denver is a great place to do sales training. So even people here locally, I think it'd be wise, they could attend there. They don't have to attend necessarily a Best Practices Boot Camp here locally if they're from St. Louis. But
hey, listen, Ryan, it's been my pleasure. It's been a great pleasure to have you on the call today. I certainly appreciate all the helpful information that you've provided for our listeners. Hey, everybody, listen, I'm going to go ahead and put links in the show notes for information for for Cornerstone. Ryan's actually and also remember that I promise you that I'm going to give you the link to download the full version of the Ultimate Presentation Formula. I opened the show with that training, or actually just an outline of it. So to get the free version, the complete version of the Ultimate Presentation Formula, I want you to go to my website, which is www.kennewhouse.com/ultimate-presentation-formula. So that's ultimate-presentation-formula after the .com, right? I'll also go ahead and put the link to that resource, to the Ultimate Presentation Formula, in the show notes for you. Again, Ryan, I want to thank you. Really, I just want to thank you so much for doing the show for us today, for our listeners, providing great content. And any last thoughts?
Absolutely. You tell me when you're available, and we'll meet. But Catherine is definitely my better half, so you'd be far more impressed with her.
You and I are smart in that way. We
you'd be far more impressed with her.
You and I are smart in that way. We're very diplomatic, so we know how to keep ourselves out of trouble. All right, man. We will talk soon. I appreciate it, and I'll get this stuff to you.